All right. TGXen, we are live. We have 0 viewers, so we can only get 100% better from here.
Yeah. I,
So
I didn't post it in the chat or anything like that, so maybe.
I dropped it on, we got 7 viewers already. I
Okay.
dropped it on Twitter and on YouTube and in the Telegram. If somebody can tell me perhaps in the chat how to find out how many viewers we have on Twitter, that'd be great. I looked the last time that I streamed and I wasn't able to find it. I went to my profile and I wasn't able to see how many viewers we have. But thanks, guys, for showing up. Oh, there we go. Okay, I see. I'm looking at my Twitter, guys, and I can see we have four views. It says 4 views. It doesn't say how many viewers, but anyhow, maybe that is the number of views. All right. Well, we have TGXen on the line. We're going to go over the stats for the month of May. And they're going to be different this month because we launched UFO. When was that? Was that not the 3rd, the 2nd? UFO launched on May 2nd. So we have some additional statistics for that protocol. And then what I did is I took my hyper complicated statistics for pTGC and condensed them down a little bit. So it's going to be a little easier to review. TGXen, thanks for joining us. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Just pickleballed this morning, and now I'm here.
Yay. My wife and I are hoping we actually bought paddles, pickleball paddles. We haven't played yet, though. But we're waiting for the court to be built over in our town. So I hear it's a lot.
Is one under construction, or if they got a plan in store?
Yeah, it's under construction.
Nice.
We have my little town of 4,000 or 5,000 has a pickleball ambassador. So 21 people here watching, and I think perhaps the viewers will be up because of the new project UFO. What we're going to do is, I have my standard workflow, if you will. We are going to just go down the stats on the sheet first, and then we're going to have like questions and answers with TGXen. So let's go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to talk about the user tracking. Now, if you see, it's starting to get a little bit, my wife would call it busy looking because of the different lines in here. So we have 1 week, that was the very first week, and then the second week, and now we're doing this monthly. So the first monthly was March, April, and then like May, which I gathered this data up this morning. So, and then of course we have columns, and this is the number of stakers straight off the site, which is pulsetgc.com. So what we did is I had this idea like, hey, let's track the stakers. Let's track all this data, because I had this thing like, I like to know where I came from, where I am, and then perhaps where I'm going, or where I'm going, perhaps, you see? So I find this historical data very, very powerful to look at. I mean, because look, we have increased by 400 stakers in 4 months. That's 100 stakers a month. And honestly, I think that's going to increase. But thinking that and seeing it for real is 2 totally different things, which is why I really appreciate tracking this in black and white. There's no ambiguity. It is what it is. So we gained 11 stakers in the last month. Not a big number, but still 11. Holders, we gained 319 holders. We gained 258 Telegram members. No doubt that was from the UFO, the launch of UFO. And TGXen, as always, you are welcome to jump in and make comments. Twitter, look at that. What do you attribute a jump of well, probably UFO, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say both those are a little bit associated with the giveaway that we're going to be doing here in the next couple weeks. of the $500 worth of pTGC.
Okay.
Because one of the rules for it was, follow the Twitter and also join the Telegram.
There you go.
Still trying to figure out exactly how I want to do it, if it should be a live kind of thing on Twitter Spaces, or if it should just be, hey, look at all the people who commented, make sure they followed the rules, and just pick a user. But I kind of want it to be fun for everyone as well. So haven't fully decided. I need to figure it out. But
Sure, that might be fun to do a live thing.
Yeah.
Live.
Or just, I guess I could DM someone in the comments, but definitely I think announcing it live would be kind of nice, at least in our RVC.
Sure.
In our Telegram.
Okay, now the eligibility minimum to submit proposals is down to 200 million. And what that is if you go to the website, click on DAO. If you click on, and you have to connect your wallet, click on make a proposal, and then you can see the top 100 holders. You have to be in the top 100 in order to make a proposal. And many people would like to be in the number of people that can make a proposal, which is why I'm tracking this number. So at the highest it was 351 million, but today it's down to 200 million. So that's nice for it dropped by 50 million this month. We'll see where we're at next month. It looks like it's trending to like we'll be in the 100s by the end of June. And I'm hoping so.
Yeah, I think as obviously the pTGC token becomes worth more, the quantity will probably keep thinning out and thinning out and thinning out as time goes on.
Run that by me again.
As the price of pTGC continues to go up in price, the quantity of tokens that are needed to be in the top 100 will probably keep decreasing. Because the distribution of the tokens gets thinner and thinner usually over time. As time goes on, price goes up. People who do want to take profits take a little bit of profits. New users come in and buy those cells ultimately.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, I'm out of the 100 people that are in the top 100, those people are going to take profit. They're going to, get disillusioned with the project or what have you. And that'll give opportunity for other people to move up. So it'll be great. Now the YouTube videos is the video that, what's his name? Crypto Hexplained made for us. Here it is. There's a link in the description of this video that we're recording, and it has 817 views right now. This morning it had 814. So we almost doubled in the last month with 345 views. And why are we tracking that? Because, well, it brings this video to mind, so we can oh yeah, we have this video at our disposal. And it's been a while since I posted it on Twitter. Let me get it up there. So I would bookmark that video. And if you have somebody that's asking about pTGC, drop it over to them real quick.
100%. It's just a really well done video. And sometimes with complex projects, it is hard to explain it and stay on track. So I think that video had a lot of effort in putting the information out as clear and as short as possible, which is a very difficult task.
Yes, I agree. All right, Revo, it's good to have you in here. Romeo Co, good to have you. Zibar wasn't going to make it, and we're going to answer David's question once we get past once we get through all the statistics. Prices, volume, and market caps. So the highest price was that I recorded was on March 2nd. And we've been trending down ever since. And you can see that. I am not fluffing anything up. I'm just telling it like it is, right? And that does not, don't read into my voice and discern I don't think you're going to discern anything negative in me about pTGC. I'm 100% very bullish about this project.
One thing maybe we should add to this chart is the PTGC price ratioed against WPLS.
Yes.
Because pretty much at the moment we're at all-time highs as far as PTGC price versus WPLS. Obviously, our chart has a retracement to it, but if you look at just the price in ratio terms, actually all of our retracement is only due to the retracement of PLS itself, not due only to PTGC.
Right. Look at this chart, and this is PTGC, tracking against WPLS, just what you were talking about, and it looks quite juicy to me. Would you agree?
Yeah, I kind of look at it like, because if you look at both charts, if you're using like PLS that you maybe have had in the ecosystem for this whole entire year, it's not as juicy as an opportunity because we've continued to rise up against PLS. But then if you drop the chart into the dollar chart instead, where it's compared to the dollar instead of compared to PLS, it looks really, really, really juicy. And I look at that like, well, if someone does have dry capital that they think about bringing into the ecosystem, into the PLS ecosystem, into Pulse Chain, bringing in dry capital from fiat, PTGC is at actually a super killer price. But if you're using PLS that you've had sitting on the shelf for the last year, it's maybe not as good of a price just because of the drawdown of PLS. Or if you bought PLS when it was twice stack rate, you know what I mean?
Right.
So each person kind of has a different situation that they're in. I kind of think of it as like, if you're someone who's bringing in money from fiat currently, PTGC is at a super killer price.
Agreed. Here's the 7-day volume. And we're at, well, this is a peak. This is a peak that I recorded, 202,000 over the course of 7 days. Market cap is almost $11 million. The highest we saw that I recorded was 26,400,000. Liquidity, 411,000. That's only on one pair. And I built a little calculator in here that it shows you all the liquidity for PGC and UFO. And we'll look at that. Number of transactions. Why do you think the transactions was so high? This was only over a week. Any idea? You had your stream with B Roots earlier, early last week, I believe, right? So that could account for the increase in transactions.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think since the stream with B Roots, we've obviously been trending upwards, which has brought in a little bit of buy pressure. Just more education to the Pulse Chain community, the better.
Mm-hmm.
I also kind of just think that it depends on the situation of the whole entire crypto market or the Pulse Chain market, since a lot of that volume is from arbitrage bots. It kind of just depends on how everything's moving around us as well.
True.
I actually have been this is pretty off topic, but I've been thinking of this theory because a lot of people judge chain by the amount of volume they have. Like that's one of their main ways. If they rank them and they're like, this is successful, this is not successful. The one thing I don't think anyone's really tapped into as far as talking about is the amount of arbitrage bots that are all on Pulse Chain. That's actually creating a lot of the volume for the chain itself. So I actually have this theory that once Pulse Chain actually starts going up in...
We lost you.
Yeah, sorry, I got a phone call. Can you hear me all right?
We can now.
Yeah. But I have this theory as Pulse Chain and the whole entire Pulse Chain ecosystem actually starts going up in price, the liquidity pools will get bigger, which will make it so the ARB bots have to move more money around. This has nothing to do with PTGC or UFO, just all over the chain are being hexed to p-hex to p-die to just everything, which will actually give us a really high volume on chain, which will rank us very, very high compared to other blockchains.
Ooh.
And if you think about it, if we lock in those high rankings, we actually could probably lock in pretty easily a number 3 spot, a number 2 spot on all other blockchains, which is just tons in those top spots for why we have the most volume. That's just tons of free advertisement. That's a lot of energy that's probably going to get brought over to our chain just based on that, because most people don't realize it's just because of the arbitrage bots and the fact that we have such cheap fees over here that these arbitrage bots can move money so much easier compared to like ETH, where I don't know what the GUI is right now, but like let's say when it's a little bit higher, it costs $15. Well, it's 1 cent over here. So there's just so many more opportunities. So there's going to be so much more on-chain volume that actually isn't even user base needed. And I think that's going to give us a really high ranking, which is going to be part of the adoption process that I believe RH put in play. And no one's really even talking about that right now. I don't think anyone's figured that out, but I've been thinking about it.
So I had went over to turn my lights on, but it didn't work. So I miss about half of what people say. So if you could just summarize real quick. So it sounds like pTGC could have an integral part in the amount of volume on the Pulse network, which will draw eyeballs to the Pulse network, right?
No, I was kind of not talking about anything with pTGC or UFO.
Oh, sorry.
Obviously, we're capitalizing on those same theories, but what I was talking about just in general of Pulse Chain, like if you look at the liquidity pools, like with just PLSX to PLS or PLS to Hex or P Hex to Hex, all these pairs actually have tons of arb volume. Most of the volume on them are actually, for the most part, arbitrage bots. And if you think about it, we are at such low prices as far as all of the RH tickers, a lot of stuff on this chain, that the amount of money the arbitrage bots have to move is actually low. But as we start ticking upwards in price, the liquidity pools will get bigger, which will make it so the arb bots have to move more money, which will make it so the Pulse chain network has more daily volume on chain. Yes. And that's how you compare chains against each other of their success. It's one of the main metrics that they look at. So once we start moving in the right direction, we're going to be having tons of on-chain volume, which will rank Pulse chain a very, very high blockchain versus all other blockchains on the market.
Oh,
and that's
yeah,
going to be tons of free publicity, and I believe that's part of onboarding that RH put into play.
Oh, yeah. That's good, man. All right.
And no one's really talking about it, but I think it's going to be a very key part in the adoption of Pulse chain.
Yeah, I love that. I'm gonna post that on Twitter, and you can too, man.
yeah. No one's really talking about it. I think he has tons of things up his sleeve.
Yeah.
I think that's just one of them, and no one has even talked about it yet.
Yeah, I love it. pTGC transfers, there were 2 million. That's the highest I've ever recorded. And the difference was 1.6 million. DAO funds is always like right there in the 40s, 42 million. I don't know how that happens every time, but, and then the price, here's the PLS price that's like the lowest I've ever recorded.
Yeah, PLS has been on a tear going downwards, that's for sure.
A downward tear. Right.
I honestly thought that as soon as we got under sack rate again, I thought there was going to be a constant wall of people just scooping it up due to them seeing how fast RH can just pump it up 2 times sack rate. But obviously, I think a lot of people just are tapped out as far as spare funds. So,
yes. Yeah. I think we'll be going sideways for a few more weeks. several more weeks. I don't know, but I'm hoping actually, because it's an opportunity for people to scoop up cheap tokens.
I'm taking advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah. So this is a little forecasting I did on this one. It's called pTGC average growth, and we've seen an average of, since the beginning when pTGC came out in October, an average of 4.62 x's, and it was something like 7 x's or something like that until we started, going sideways for the past 2 or 3 months. So, but still, we're an averaging of 4.62 x's per month. So if we held that trend and didn't continue to go sideways or down, then by June, at some point in June, we could have 30151, in July, August, September, and so on, you see. And that's just a little bit of moon math, if you will, but I like to speculate.
Yeah, I think definitely a lot of that is just dependent on what Pulse Chain does. It's definitely really hard to move in the upwards direction when Pulse Chain's moving in the opposite direction. It's just like walking up a down escalator. And once that escalator turns, then you're walking up and up escalator, moving twice as fast. But, as a community, I look at these times like we have more time to build LP. We have more time to educate people. We have more time to do buy and burns at these low rates, get cheap PLS into our pools. And actually, the longer we sit at low Pulse Chain levels, creates a stronger pTGC and UFO.
Because we're burning more pTGC. And
We're gathering, just with every transaction, we gather more PLS. So the more PLS we gather as far as quantity goes, the better, in my opinion, because when the price does start to move upwards, we've gathered that much more PLS, because on transaction based, it's grabbing more PLS. We're buying and burning more PLS. We're adding more PLS to our LP pool. In the long term, that actually is better, because then we have more quantity of PLS locked into our LP pool itself.
Right.
Even though everyone likes seeing green candles, that's obviously a positive thing too. It's easier to onboard people to Pulse Chain itself when the chart's not going in the opposite direction, but there's always a silver lining to situations like this.
Right.
And the silver lining to me is it gives me time to personally accumulate for my family all the RH tickers and also pTGC and UFO. And then on top of that, it gives the protocol time to accumulate PLS and all these other RH tickers that we know and love and believe in.
Yes.
And then obviously the negative thing is it's a little bit harder to onboard, but you can kind of push that to the side and focus on the positives and work with what we got and keep working in a positive direction.
Yep. We're burning tokens. We're building LP. All the users are stacking tokens. And when the green candles come, we'll post those on social media and draw everybody else into the ecosystem. That's just how it's going to work.
Yeah.
We just do what we can while we can. So this is the 1 million pTGC stake that I made at the beginning of February. It has earned, let's see, almost 22,000 pTGC. And that's a small stake. It's locked for 10 years. So it's completely maxed out, locked. And here's all the statistics for it. And what you can do, there's a link to this sheet in the video description. If you'd like, you can put the amount of pTGC you have in here in this orange field. And then it's going to show you this. And if you were locked for the same amount of time, it's going to show you the exact amount that you would have expected for even all the different tiers of the different locks. And it'll show you like per day how much you're earning. And granted, 5 million pTGC is not a lot, but you 10x that, and your per day goes up a little bit. And it doesn't look very exciting now, but I believe that one day it will be exciting. So
100%. I don't know if you have the address on hand, but I recently did the 30K to 1 million journey with UFO just for tracking purposes. It might be kind of fun to show. It's down right now. I didn't time like the bottom perfectly, but I thought it was a pretty good entry point on the whole entire RH ecosystem. So I think over the long term, that will be pretty fun once RH tokens start to move upward, once UFO starts to move upwards, and once the volume picks up in the whole entire ecosystem, and the rewards are pretty good too.
Okay. Here's that wallet, B25.
Yep.
So if you want to walk us through, because I looked at it and I did see that it's down because I think it started at 30,000, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes. So
the goal is to get it to 1 million within a year.
yes. I'd say a year is a pretty good timeline as far as peak of bull market. So I'm hoping that it's close within the year, but I didn't really have a timeline on it. It was more just, let's see how this goes and let's follow the journey with the wallet. That what I thought was interesting about it is a lot of people do these journeys, but they're like trading and stuff like that. And I don't really like trading, and I don't like to tell people to trade. So I wanted to do a journey that's more fitting to the pTGC and UFO ecosystem. That was more about, with this one that I did, it was, hey, grab your RH tickers, grab your UFO, create LP pools on our farms on the UFO website, start earning yield, and let's track how these move up together over time and how much yield you get, and
Yes.
let's see where this goes. Yeah, so if you look at the wallet, you can kind of see I have a chunk of just UFO sitting there, and so that's just going to be earning UFO reflections
This
with
one right
every
here.
transaction. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of just earning the UFO reflections, and then if you scroll down, that's all the LP pairs that we're farming with.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so those are all earning the PLS rewards, and I haven't claimed any yet. I'm kind of waiting for it to build up a little bit, and the RH tokens to kind of get some nice momentum, and then I'll probably claim them. I don't really see value in claiming constantly because you're paying the gas and stuff like that. So I'm letting them build up a little bit, but those are all earning PLS rewards at the moment.
Wow. Those are some nice bags too. From my perspective.
Yeah, I was looking at pTGC and UFO's ecosystem. Like, I think this is good prices. I was looking at the RH ecosystem and thought the same thing. I think these are good prices. Obviously, I didn't get the perfect bottom. I don't really think anyone does, but I just, in my personal opinion, I was like, these are solid prices. These are below SAC rate. These are below penny hex. You know what I mean? This is a good dip on PDI, and I believe UFO is undervalued. So I'm gonna do this journey right here, and throughout the next year, in my opinion, Pulse Chain is going to be a successful ecosystem, and I think this wallet should start to look pretty good and could actually be pretty fun to look over and be like, oh, it's earning this rewards. Oh, it's at this. It could become pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, here's Prairie Bananas, very much more simplified, smaller bagged experiment. I took a million UFO and LP'd it with, I forget what I paired it with, and it doesn't really matter, but here's the LP'd UFO, and here's the liquid UFO. Here's the yield from the liquid UFO, 2,924 UFO, and here's the yield from the LP'd UFO, which is 409 pulse. And annually, here's the average per day for each of these, and there's, if you projected it out annually, 14 cents for the liquid UFO. Mind you, it's a million UFO. It's a very small amount. And and then 37 cents for the LP'd UFO. And you do have, and there's an equal amount of money tied, paired with that 1 million UFO. But you can see this is this is like, I mean, the LP UFO is generating like almost three times as much as liquid UFO in yield.
Yeah. Yeah. And it should, over time, in my opinion, probably start to go downwards as far as less than 3 times, because the tax system is obviously 3 times. The tax for holders is 1%, and then the tax for LP providers, the reward, not the tax, but the reward they receive is 3% of every transaction. But the nuance of it is everyone can keep buying and adding LP, and then buying out of that LP and adding LP, and then buying out of that LP and adding LP. But as far as holding tokens, you can't really do that. You know what I mean? Either you hold them or you don't. So as UFO actually starts becoming more successful, the people holding the tokens actually should start to receive maybe a little bit more than 1/3 of the people providing LP.
Oh, really?
Which I think. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's good to hear. That changes some of the plans that I have. That gives me a little.
Yeah, I think there's value in both of them. You know what I mean? I think there's, and I didn't want only everyone to just LP, is kind of why I put that metric in there, is that I think it's also important for some people to also hold, because if everyone's just LPing, well, then there becomes tons and tons of LP, but no one just holding up the token's price.
Right. I'm here. I'm just changing the lighting.
Oh, yeah.
So you can see that there's a little moon math calculator built in here. So if the pulse chain does a 10x and UFO does a 15x, you can just change these numbers, and these other numbers will. These numbers down here will change, because this is where you're going to input your UFO, right? And it'll be a 1-to-1 comparison of your UFO versus this 1 million. So it's actually like a pretty handy little calculator if you wanted to project and see what you could perhaps garner over this same period. You know, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but pretty cool little calculator. Again, there's a link in the notes.
And what's that calculator showing? Is that have?
It's showing, like, you can put your liquid UFO and your LP UFO in here. Just put however many you got, and it will compare it to the 1 million, the exact data that I got from my 1 million liquid and LP'd, and it'll show you what you would have gotten from May 14th to June 2nd, so you could kind of forecast a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, the one thing I think that's probably not integrated with that is, obviously, if Pulse 10x's or if UFO 15x's, the LP pools would be bigger, which then in turn, if they're bigger, the RBots will have to move more money, which should increase the rewards from the RBots 10x. And then you have to pay attention to, like, what percent of the volume is human based and what percent of the volume is arbitrage bot based.
Yeah, it's true.
Which naturally, if the volume picks up from the arbitrage bots, the natural volume from human interaction should pick up as well, because the rewards and burn rate will be higher as the arbot interaction picks up as well, which then makes the project more enticing to humans. And then, you know, and then obviously they come in because they're like, wow, they're paying out this amount of rewards, and they're buying and burning this amount from all these RBots. I want in. I want my chunk of the pie.
Right. I told you guys about that's the next tab. Sorry, back up, Prairie. So what I did, I got this idea from Shaka Vibes. Thank you, Shaka. He says, let's compare the pooled, the amount of dollars, hold up, not dollars, the amount of pooled UFO and these other tokens. So I got this, from the site right here, UFO token, and you go to liquidity pools, and you look at this one, for example, pooled UFO, pooled pTGC. I copied this data, pasted it here. and I did this yesterday. So we'll see what we have on the 1st of July or whenever we do this next. So right now we had the total UFO that is pooled is 268 billion, or 28% of the total UFO is being, used in LP.
LP farming.
LP
I'd
farming.
say a little bit of it is in other pairs, but not much.
Okay. Yeah, I would say. True. It'll
Probably
be
additional 3% or 4% or something like that.
Okay. So that's that. That'll be interesting to see where we go next month. And then this here, this was from, I think this was from Shaka. This was his suggestion. It might have been both of them. This is all the LP money. So I went to Dex Screener and, just clicked on pTGC. And then I found all the pairs. Okay. I just found all the pairs and added up the LP money. pTGC has 1.927 million in LP and UFO has 1.46 million in LP. And we're going to see where this goes next month. Is that a cool little metric, TGXen?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important metrics of pTGC and UFO is the amount of LP we have in the protocol.
What do you think is going to happen with the difference between these two over the next month or two?
So I think a lot of the pTGC LP that I see there is probably the LP between pTGC and our amplifiers.
Okay.
So I think they're pretty even is kind of where I was getting to, but as far as like paired with the RH tickers and the blue chips of Pulse Chain, as far as how much is in them go. But of course, over time, I believe UFO will have more LP in the long term than pTGC itself. Obviously, pTGC's is all protocol owned, so that will never be taken, even if whatever happens. Where if UFO, a lot of that LP is provided by the users of UFO itself. So new people will come and old people will sometimes leave when it hits certain numbers that they're looking for. Just like with any LP providing, a lot of tokens don't even have a lot of protocol owned LP. They just have the community supply the LP for them. And then as the LP pool hits the numbers that they're looking for, they'll close the LP pool and take profits with the side that they ended up with. Like, let's say you made an LP pool with Teddy Bear and PLS, and then Teddy Bear went up in price. Well, then you would have ended up with more PLS in your pool, which would have been you're pretty much exiting out of your position via LP instead of just selling on the chart. And that's one of the big reasons why a lot of people do provide LP. Is it's a DCA out method, and it's also a DCA in method as well.
Right. Okay.
But yes, your point, I think UFO is going to continue to grow, and pTGC will also grow, but pTGC for the most part only grows with the DAO voting and adding LPs to the protocol,
Right.
where UFO can get added to by thousands and thousands and thousands of users, and it incentivizes users to add to it. Yeah.
All right. I'm excited. It's the first month of data is like, what's going to happen? We have no reference point. We don't have another month, previous month of data. So we have no idea what's going to happen next month. And that to me is
I think a lot of it, like where that number is going to go is just what the Pulse Chain ecosystem does in this next month. If Pulse Chain or the whole Pulse Chain ecosystem, let's say, goes up 2x, right back to SAC rate, which is not unlikely in my opinion, then those numbers should be all 2x'd.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. It's all ratio based. So if the Pulse Chain ecosystem in general is up 2x, those LP numbers will be up 2x as well.
Right. Okay. The next tab is something, it's under construction. So that is under construction. But it's I want you to review what you sent me in the email. So let me just get it pulled up. Then I'll show my screen. This is what we chatted about a little bit before we got on stream. 59 people in here. Thanks for joining us. If you guys got questions or comments, drop them in the chat. Hit the like button, please, and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it. All right, TGXen, would you like to explain this? I'll see if I can make it a little bit larger for the viewers, but if you could kind of go into what you were speculating, before we went live, that would be great.
Yeah. So kind of what I was showing here is I use the number 1 million. Obviously, we saw right now that it's more like 1.5 million in the LP pool with UFO. So I was kind of just running rough numbers for example purposes. But what I've noticed is the daily volume on these protocols is from the ARB bots is roughly, let's say, 1% of what the LP is. Sometimes it's 2%, 3%. It really just depends on what the network is doing around us. So I took the lowest number. So usually on a daily basis, just from the ARB bots, we're getting like $10,000 worth of volume just from, and that's based on the current price of people. I use the number 1 million. It's like 1.5 million. As the pulse chain ecosystem goes up X's around us, and that's kind of what I'm showing in column 2, like 5 lines down.
Right here.
Yeah. So that column I did based on X's. So as 1 million of LP, if the pulse chain ecosystem 5X's, it actually becomes $5 million of LP. And then if it 10X's, it becomes $10 million of LP. 20 million, you get the point. Pretty much,
Yes.
if the pulse chain ecosystem 100X's, then we'll have $100,000 of LP. It's actually a little bit more than that. Would be $150 million of LP with UFO. And that has nothing to do with UFO going up in price. This is just based on pulse chain ecosystem going up in price. So obviously we have deflationary tokenomics and we incentivize people to buy via, giving rewards and stuff like that. So I actually think we'll continue to move up on top of these X's, but this is just the base tokens we're connected to. If in average they do 100X, our LP pools will now be at 150 million with UFO. Or you could even do the same metrics for pTGC. We'd be at like 150 million for pTGC as well. What I'm showing here is if on average, let's say we get 1% of what our LP pool number is, if that is also 1% of it in volume daily from the ARB bots, that would make it so there's $150,000 of fees. Or let me rewind. So if we have $1.5 million in volume a day just from arbitrage bots, we would obviously be taxing those arbitrage bots.
Yeah.
And we would be taxing them 0.5%. So 0.5%, or 5%, not 0.5%, 5%.
Right.
So out of 150 or $1.5 million, I think it would be $75,000 a day we would be getting in fees just from arbitrage bots. This has nothing to do with humans actually buying the token. Obviously, if we're getting that much in fees, people are going to be incentivized to buy because this is going to be a very well-performing project.
That'd be $27 million in a year in fees.
Yeah, so we would be getting $27 million in fees, not from any humans. This is only from arbitrage bots on Pulse Chain. And then we know our distribution method. So I think it's 60% of those fees, if we're talking about UFO as an example, 60% of those fees are going to go to the LP provider solely of UFO. So like you said like 27. So let's say half of that was that $13 million a year would be going to the LP providers of UFO. And that's
Right.
only from the arbitrage bots.
Okay.
No human interaction needed. And then obviously every person in their own has every capability or their means to get as much position of that pool as possible. So then you can say like, my goal is to get 1% of that position. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because like obviously you're with a lot of people here, so like 1% would be pretty much a whale position. But then you could do your math like, well, just from the arbitrage bots alone, I could get this amount of APR from this protocol. And then that doesn't even include like the X's. So if we're $1,000 a day in gas, obviously 1% of those is just going to automatic buy and burns of UFO. So there's going to be a huge buy and burn happening every single day just from the arbitrage bots. And again, this doesn't even have anything to do with human interaction. If there's, I think that would be like $12,000-$15,000 a day of buy and burns just from the arbitrage bots. If a protocol is buying and burning $15,000 a day, that's going to incentivize people to want to get in. And then as people get in, they're also adding to that buy and burn, and so on and so forth. The main point of it being is the protocol is not dependent on any human interaction. And as Pulse Chain becomes successful, pTGC and UFO actually become successful as well. And there is no human buyers needed to make that happen. So like anyone on Pulse Chain could literally think like, do I think Pulse Chain will be successful? Yes or no? If your answer is yes, you have now put a bet on pTGC and UFO, and it's no discussion. It's just math and blockchain evidence proof.
Right.
And then it's up to anyone's decision. Like, do I want to get a portion of that yield and the highly deflationary protocol, or do I not want to have part in that? And obviously some people will, want to not have part in it. But the cool thing kind of about it, like with UFO, is we tried to latch up with Pulse Chain with being able to provide LP. So a lot of users can actually now put all their RH tickers to use for them instead of them just sitting in your wallet and not earning yield on them.
Mm-hmm.
Connect with a protocol like this, which is farming off of volume and volatility instead of a normal farm just pays in inflation. Well, if PLS is actually successful, in my opinion, UFO will be one of the top performing farming projects to ever exist on any protocol or on any block, not just blockchain. Yeah.
That's a lofty claim.
Yeah. Well, it's because it actually works in the opposite direction. Is a normal farm, as more people come into that pool, it actually decreases your rewards and you get less. So you actually want to solely be in that protocol. But with these protocols, as more people come in, they're actually not diluting you because they're adding to the web itself. So you actually keep getting roughly the same amount of rewards that you would have if they were there or not. And then it's solely based on just if the protocol or if the blockchain, if all these blue chips become successful, and if an average they 10x, 20x, 50x, 100x, actually depends on how much this protocol can possibly pay out. Not from human interaction. Obviously, these numbers can double, triple, quadruple if huge amounts of interest come into fruition. But I don't like to look at those numbers because those numbers are harder to control. And I try to build these protocols to where it's based on things I do have control over. And not control over like I have censorship, but control over where like I was able to put up this money to make this LP web possible. So now that this LP web is possible, we can look at what's happening on the blockchain and assess the growth of the project. Or I can look at the math to where how we structured the fee structure, we don't need someone to come in to make our token go up in price. The ARB bots will just trade our project. which then buys and burns our project, which creates a constant investor of the protocol going up over time. And those are like the metrics I like to look at, because in crypto, nothing really is guaranteed besides the market in general going up and down.
Yep.
Everyone's going to tell you, oh, you know, people will come into this project. It's guaranteed. Like, it's not guaranteed. Think about how many projects go up and then come down and never come back forever. So I like to take all those issues and get them out of the situation and say, what can I guarantee this project? Well, by creating this web, we create a situation where there will be a constant investor in this project no matter what. It's called the debt address. And the debt address will constantly buy up pTGC and UFO and then take that supply out of circulation and put PLS into the chart or into the liquidity pools.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Let's look at the last tab that I have as far as stats. Let me show my screen here. This one is the amount burned by each. And now this is pTGC, UFO, and the 4 amplifiers. Burn, appropriately named, has burned the most. So these are in order by the most burned. Burn has burned 23% of its tokens. pTGC, number 2 at 11%. And these numbers are rounded. 808, 10%. Alien, 9%. And I know Alien is not an amplifier, but it's like family, if you will. So I threw it in there. Liquid, 7%. UFO, 5%. And energy, 3%. So and that's for the month of May. We'll see how we're doing at the end of June for July's meeting. All right, let's see. I kind of wanted to go back to the site, and if you could do something in here that I thought would be really interesting. If you could put like dollar amounts in here. Hopefully my wallet's still connected. No, it's locked. Like, is there a way that you guys can put, because we see the pulse rewards right here. Is there a way that you can put, like, maybe not under each one, but maybe under the pending rewards, put the dollar amount value in pulse? Is there a way that you guys can do that?
Yeah, obviously we can add for it to look up the current price of pulse and, show that number. Okay.
Because I mean, this is obviously, this is for my little tiny 1 million UFO LP pair with pulse, but like on my other LPs, it'd be cool to see the dollar amount. Because what I do is I go to Dex Tools or Dex Screener and I do calculate it myself. But it'd be cool if it was on the site. And then up here too, maybe even pending a claim, if you can see the dollar amount, like just down below, I think that'd be handy, if nothing else.
Yeah, I can work with getting stuff like that added in.
Okay. I want to review these tabs because there's one in here that I think that you guys are really going to like. So these are the tabs. It's kind of a little project that I've been working on, is this sheet for you guys. And there's some tabs in here that you guys have probably heard before. This is the freedom number. And there's a video for each of these. You can put in your data and kind of do your own little forecast. There's an asset tracker, so you can track your assets. And this is something that I'm going to be working on pretty heavily this month. So all this is going to change, and I'll just update this one. There's a just for fun, where you can do some forecasting, and then buying positions. What you can do is you put in the supply of any token you're looking to buy, the price, and it can show you the amount that's going to cost you for a position in said token. And then the reflections tracker, if you have pTGC or UFO or another reflections token, you can put your data in here and track how many what you're garnering in reflections, and then an estimator. And like I said, there's a video walkthrough for this. If you're thinking about locking pTGC, it's something that, in my opinion, that should be done very deliberately. So here are some notes that you can review before you lock. And I would lock during the daytime, not at night. might want to sleep on it overnight. I heard a wise man one time. He says, never make a weighted decision at night. And then compounding your yield. This is an illustration to show you that, compounding your yield more than about once a week is kind of like beating your head against the wall. It's just really not going to be profitable. And then whether recycle or not, this is a little, I know Pulse is very inexpensive, but there is a cost. So if the price of Pulse goes up and up and up, we might want to know how much we're spending to claim our pTGC and restake and all of that. And this calculator will help you do that. Again, video walkthrough. And here's a burn sheet. And this is showing you which protocol is burning the most, like pTGC, average 0.001%. So it could potentially, if it continued, it would burn like 70% by the end of this year. UFO, it would completely be gone. Our bags would be nuked. We'd be talking about UFO like as this thing of the past if that really happened. No, the reason that number is so high is because I tracked it from day one. And this one is, the numbers are skewed because it's so new is what I'm trying to say. And I have some work to do on these. Alien, about 8%, and then SFD only on here because it burns a smidge of pTGC. And then how pTGC is burned, this illustrates all the different places, all the different functions within the smart contract that burn pTGC. And then here is to LP or not. I am not LPing my pTGC with anything, or I'm LPing my UFO because it doesn't cost me anything. But if I pair it with pTGC, it's going to cost me the equivalent of 6%, 11% between the two, and I'm just not willing to do that right now. Do you have any? Have you learned? Because we had this conversation, TGXen. Have you learned anything, or do you have any other thoughts on pairing pTGC or UFO?
I personally don't think pTGC was not made for users to be incentivized to add LP. It's as simple as that. With the
Right.
UFO protocol, we did include pTGC into that to make it so if anyone did want to, at least they are still earning the PLS rewards on top of that, to where if they just paired pTGC, normally they wouldn't be getting any good rewards, so they wouldn't be farming with it ultimately. But in my opinion, there isn't much of a point to provide LP with pTGC because you get paid just for staking it with really no risk. So if you LP it, you're now giving up all those free rewards.
Plus you're paying 5%.
Plus you're in and out. So
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's just UFO, it was designed to incentivize LPing, to where pTGC was designed to not incentivize LPing. And there's pros and cons to each. One thing I like to say about pTGC is, since all that LP is protocol owned, there is no user that can ever just close those LPs and take those funds from the users. You know what I mean? It's all protocol owned, where UFO is a completely different machine with a different job, with ultimately similar goals. But like, for an example, you have a steel shop and you got multiple different tools in that steel shop, and they all have good use cases, but it's not the same use case. You know what I mean? One's for cutting, one's for welding. Two completely different actions, but they're both valuable tools.
Mm-hmm. All right, the last tab, the second from last tab, is something I built this morning. I think you guys are gonna like this. And this is what I reached out to you about, TGXen, because I wanted your go ahead, and you gave me the go ahead. So what this demonstrates, and this is another buying a position chart, okay? But what I did is I expanded it and I put each token in here individually. So here's the supply of pTGC, for example. Here's the price from this morning. Shark position, you're going to cost a minimum of $9,600. And if you had just $500, it's going to show you how much of that you can buy and your position over here. Okay. Pretty simple. pTGC, and just talking plain, is going to be your highest entry, your most expensive entry, but it might be your most valuable token. We don't know. UFO is a little, okay. pTGC, $9,600. UFO, shark position, $2,300. Alien, shark position, $537. Burn, $382. I like Burn because it pays me PLS every day. You can literally get a shark position for $382. We're not done. 808, $228 for a shark position. Liquid, $301, and energy, $142. TGXen, talk to us about like why, should we be taking a look at these amplifier tokens, energy, liquid, 808, and burn, or which of these four would you say is undervalued? Talk to us.
In my opinion, I think a lot of the pTGC and UFO protocol is completely undervalued because of the fact that not all, but most of the LPs are all burnt in these protocols. So, and they all have webs. So every single one of these tokens have webs. So that's kind of what I mean is there will constantly be a buyer with all these protocols, and it's our bots, even if a human buys them or not. So right. I do think they're all undervalued. I do like certain ones in particular for investor purposes because all the amplifiers weren't necessarily made for too much for people to buy. They were more made to get airdropped to all the users. And at that time, obviously, we're not airdropping anymore, but when pTGC came out, we airdropped all the amplifiers to the pTGC holders. And the idea with it was, hey, everyone hold these, and some of these tokens will even just print you PLS into your wallet to help you pay for gas fees in the future with participating in all that kind of stuff. A lot of people did sell them down. I was actually a little bit surprised with that, and it showed me kind of where everyone was at in their market and their crypto journey, that they're like, oh, free money, I'm going to go get this and not support the protocol. But there are some people who are supporting the protocol. I think Burn is a really interesting one. It's got 23% of the supply bought in Burn. If you take that number and really think, okay, that's a huge amount of the supply, and that person can never sell. So you literally took the whale of all whales, and he will never sell. So really, what market cap is this at? If you took all those buys out of it, like it would probably be very, very low. And all that LP's there for only the people who do hold it. And you have to realize that Burn address isn't getting the rewards of the PLS, etc. So it can, in my opinion, once PLS starts moving up, I do think it's going to do well, just based on the math and the web built behind it. I do think UFO and pTGC are obviously the main pieces to pTGC and UFO, and those will always get the most attention. I'm not going to be educating people on Burn and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, they were mainly designed for the airdrop to the pTGC community, and then also to incentivize the bots to have more things to move around and earn additional yield for the pTGC ecosystem.
Okay. Fair enough. Do you think any of these amplifier tokens might reach parity with pTGC?
I spent a lot of time thinking about the tokenomics of UFO if you want to include that as an amplifier. I think it's a little bit more than it because it wasn't really just made for bots to trade, obviously, with all the smart contracts built behind it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that UFO will do very, very well once the pulse chain market starts to pick up. Because if you look at the amount of LP that UFO has compared to the market cap, it is the LP in that protocol is more than half the market cap. So once PLS starts to move upwards, there is no downwards movement that can really come to that protocol because there ultimately just isn't a lot of people holding it wanting to sell it. Pretty much everyone that's holding it sees the value in providing the LP and farming with it.
Okay.
Yeah, so like for an example, most projects or not most, most people don't see this because there's constant trading going on, but let's say if tomorrow Pulse Chain went on a 10x rip. Well, a lot of people, that ratio that would drag up every project connected with Pulse Chain up along that 10x rip. But the difference is most people at that point would just move their tokens into Pulse. They wouldn't just keep holding up that project. But what I'm saying here is I don't think there's a lot of people that are in a situation that will trade that because they're already providing LP and they're earning PLS by farming with it. So the machine is already putting them PLS into their wallets. So there isn't really much of a reason for them to make that trade.
Okay. And if you're brand new to the pTGC and maybe you just found this video on YouTube and you're wondering, where is this project? It's on the Pulse network, and here's how you get there. If you have Ethereum, bridge it over to the Pulse network. There's a link to the bridge. Once it's there, you swap it for WETH, and then just follow these instructions. You only have PLS, and then swap for the token you want, like pTGC, UFO, what have you. So it's time for questions and answers. Guys, if you got questions, pop them in the chat. TGXen, your stream, the stream with B Roots was amazing. It was like the best I'm not kidding. It was the best presentation on pTGC I have ever seen. It was so good, man. There's a link to it in the description of this video. So well done, dude. I'm serious.
Thanks. Yeah, sometimes when I'm like trying to educate people on the protocol, sometimes it comes out better out of my mouth than other times. It just kind of depends.
Yeah.
But really, it's like my opinion on the protocol is I honestly believe in this machine more than I can even voice it out. Like when it comes out, in my opinion, it's never even comes out as bullish as I actually think the machine and the math is. And I just don't even think anyone fully understands it yet.
Yeah, I don't think I fully understand it. I know I don't. Before I forget, I want to get to this one comment from a buddy of mine. And if he's watching, he knows who he is probably. So this is a bullish comment. He says, and it's about UFO. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying it, but I'm not giving his name. He says, and this is somebody I trust. I don't trust everybody in crypto, but this is somebody that has not broken my trust. The web under UFO is more extensive than pTGC. And I hope I'm not overstepping my boundaries here, TGCen, but they're both your projects. He says the upward movement for it will be crazy, and I won't be surprised one bit if it catches up to pTGC. I still think pTGC is the GOAT, and the burn tokenomics are awesome. But those that missed out early on pTGC have a second chance with UFO. Just my opinion.
Yeah, it's my opinion too. The web, the web of UFO is absolutely insane compared to the market cap. If the market cap of pTGC and UFO become the same, imagine how big the LP web of UFO would be. UFO is still, I think, 4x ish, 3.5, 4x away from pTGC. So you could do that same to that LP pool to make it parity. That's how strong that LP web is.
Yeah.
So you're really not sharing that reward structure and that burn structure with many people. So if PLS ecosystem goes on a run, and we just ran those numbers, it's insane what these machines will start to produce as far as buy and burns, as far as reward distribution. In my opinion, there would be no reason to, and this is a huge statement considering the fact if they're up 100x, obviously that's going to be very incentivizing to sell because you're up 100x on a project and you're in the peak of a bull market. But where I'm getting at with it is the passive rewards and yield on these protocols are going to be very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking at your portfolio, and I know for damn sure most people that own pTGC, let's say, own Teddy Bear as well or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, let's say you're up 100x on both, and UFO is printing you, I don't know what the APR would be, but let's say 100% APR based on volume on a yearly basis, and your Teddy Bear is printing you nothing. It's going to be really hard to sell your UFO when it's printing you pretty much 100% APR when your bear token is printing you nothing. And I'm just saying that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would so much sooner sell my tokens that are just sitting there on my wallet versus pTGC or UFO or my burn or alien. Those are real estate, man.
Yeah. And
Hassle-free real estate.
And really, if you think about like obviously in a bear market, there's going to be a retracement. But like if you think about if Pulse Chain goes up 100x from here and then it retraces in a bear market 75%. Well, that's still up 25% or 25x from the point we are now.
Mm-hmm.
So that still means that our liquidity pools would be 25 times the size they are right now, which is going to still pay awesome rewards throughout the whole 3 years of a bear market until the next bull. No one else will be making good money in the bear market, but UFO and pTGC holders would be just sitting here buying and burning more tokens, earning passive PLS, earning passive pTGC. I think it will actually hold up very well in a bear market. Because that's one thing you can't control, or that's guaranteed, in my opinion, in crypto. Like, the markets are going to move up and down. There's no question about that. Like, even in a bull market, they're going to move up and down. And pTGC and UFO are designed to thrive off the market moving up and down. That's the utility of pTGC and UFO, is to tax the volatility and the volume of the entire market.
Mm-hmm.
We don't care if it's going up or down. It goes down, we tax it. It goes up, we tax it. It bounces up and down for 2 months, we tax it. It doesn't matter. And that's the coolest thing about it, is the only thing that's guaranteed in the market is it goes up and down, and that's our utility. It's not sell this product to this person and we take that money and bring it back here. No, the market just does what it does, and then we make money off that. Like, I don't even really think that's been done in crypto besides, like, I guess technically a centralized exchange just taxing users, bringing in money. But we don't even need to tax a user. We're just taxing the bots fixing prices.
Mm-hmm.
So the money doesn't even need to come from an individual. It just comes from the whole entire market itself. So as the whole entire market moves, we're just scraping that money down a funnel, just right down to one token or 2 tokens, pTGC and UFO, one ecosystem.
Yep. I dropped a link in the chat to look into Trinity.com. My buddy, Crypto Sloth, built that site, and it's for positioning. You could put in a contract address, and it's going to show you the dollar amount that's going to cost to buy that position. And it just got that today. He just got it built. So that's free. Look into Trinity.com. TGXen, do you have any other interviews coming up?
Not locked in. I'm talking to a few people hoping to schedule a day. So I think there should be some interviews coming, but I just don't want to say them until they're like for sure locked in.
Okay. And this is a question from Rom. And I was going to ask you this offline, but he asked, so let's just ask it. When are we going to start advertising on X?
I think over time the DAO will start making proposals to probably do stuff like that, and it either be pushing for, let's say, certain individuals that are just big pTGC advocates to maybe push their tweets and push their influencer persona in a positive direction.
Sure.
And then also maybe send it to, I don't know, to get the main profile to do it as well. I just think right now that people have been very, very caught up with just buying and burning supply and adding LP due to it being at very low levels. And then when we start moving into a positive direction with Pulse, when there is new users coming into Pulse Chain to where advertisements would probably do better advertising to new people, would be a good point to start doing that, if that makes sense.
Yep, it does.
Right now, there isn't a flock of people coming to Pulse Chain. There will be a flock of people, and that would probably be the best time to start doing things like that, because people would be like, oh, Pulse Chain's going up. I'm going to get on there. Oh, this pTGC keeps popping up on my timeline. I need to look into this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is David's question from earlier. He says, do my stakes keep producing pTGC tokens until I unstake them? Yes, they do. You can leave them staked, and they're still going to produce for you.
Yeah, I think maybe he's talking about locking, possibly.
He says, I'm staked in the pTGC pool until mid-June. Do they keep? Oh yeah, he's locked. Yeah, he's locked in.
Yeah. So
same thing.
I guess talking about that is when you lock pTGC, you obviously have a time lock, and that time lock gets you a percentage of your rewards from locking. But once you fulfill your time, you actually don't need to close down that lock whatsoever. You can continue just sitting there and earning your rewards. You're just not going to be in the higher tiers if you lock longer, which a lot of people don't care about being in the higher tiers. They're happy to just get some additional rewards and just sit in that pool risk-free forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because once you fulfill your, let's say you did the minimum, the 90 days, yeah, you're in tier 10, the lowest tier, you're only getting 50% of the rewards you could have gotten. But once you do those 90 days, which is not long, you're just sitting there risk-free and still earning that 50% of your rewards. And you're not getting hit with penalties. You're not losing your pTGC like, this happens with other protocols. So I didn't want to make it to where if someone forgot a date or some life incident came up, they just get screwed over, because I heard of that happening. It's just like, wow, that guy ended up in the hospital, missed this date, and now he's screwed. Like, that sucks. But yeah. So, and then it incentivizes people. If I made it to where you had to end it right then, like, well, I feel like that's me kind of pushing them out of the ecosystem too. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it hit the time, I have to end it right now. Like, what do hex people do when theirs ends?
Yeah.
A lot of them just close it out and sell it onto the market, not caring what price it's at whatsoever.
I'm just going to tell you, I've got Zen stuff coming. I have Titan X. That is a stress on me. I'm like, if I forget, untold amount of wealth in the future that could expand to,
Yeah.
and it's got a date on it. And yes, I've got a window of a number of days or whatever, but dude, if something happens and I space it and I have, that's very sad.
Yeah.
To me.
I'll give you the example. One of my buddies is also into Zen. Like, I had a decent amount of Zen minting going on, and I put like 50% of all my mints on one day, and then like 25% on another day, and then 25% on another day. And my buddy was like, why didn't you like do a ladder where they like come out all this day, this day, this day? And I'm like, dude, it mentally wears. I have so much going on. I just needed to lock in this weekend as my
Oh,
Zen Mints weekend.
yeah.
And that's it. Like I couldn't think about it every weekend because I was gonna. Stuff happens, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean. And then what? I just lose that. It's like no, I didn't want to. It's that way on me too. It kind of like wears on me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that whole year, honestly, kind of weared on me. Luckily, they're claimed now, but I always was like, don't forget that. Don't forget that. Don't forget.
If somebody was looking, if they didn't hold any pTGC or UFO, I wouldn't. This is me. I'm asking you a question, but I would not recommend necessarily buying one or the other. I would recommend buying both, but a ratio like maybe 50-50 or a 70-30. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it kind of depends on what you want to do. If you have no desire whatsoever of using the LP situation with UFO, pTGC might be a better bet for you. But if you're someone who has a be able to do that with pTGC. So
can you rewind about 10 seconds?
yeah. So where I was getting at is you kind of look at your portfolio and what you want to do within the ecosystem. If you don't want to put any of your RH tickers into LP, pTGC might be the better position for you because you can just stake. You know what I mean? So you're going to earn 2% just from staking. But if you're someone who does want to have your RH tickers for you and you like playing the LP kind of game and farming game, then UFO might be a better bet for you because you're going to earn 3% for doing that. And you already had the RH tickers anyways. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it depends on a user. I think they both, like I said, they both have utility or use case, like the welding shop in there. One's for cutting, one's for welding. That's a basic example, but they're both useful tools, and it just depends on what you're trying to get done.
Okay, thanks for that. That was some good perspective. I appreciated that. And we only got a couple minutes left, probably. TGXen. Imagine putting. Now, I want to give you some perspective about where we are in the market and the LP with UFO. So, let's say you are going to LP $500 worth of UFO and $500 worth of hex today. Now, if you had waited until months in the future and decided, hey, I want to LP, the same amount of UFO and the same amount of hex. Well, if UFO and hex have done a 10x by that time, it's going to cost not $500 but $5,000 of each of them. That just to give you some perspective on the LP pools right now. Do you have any thoughts on that, TGXen? Any comments?
Yeah, so the LP providing, obviously, you get in a UFO shares rate. So whenever you do V2 liquidity providing, you got to provide 50-50, 50% this side, 50% that side. But right now, like you said, it's, let's say, I don't know what the ratio is, but let's say it's, a million UFO and a million hex is 500 and 500 bucks. But in the future, 1 million UFO and 1 million hex, it might cost you $5,000. That's going to get you the exact same shares because it's still 1 million UFO shares. So any user who's deciding to come into the protocol at low levels, and this is low levels on both sides because you have to provide both sides. You can't just provide UFO. You got to provide the UFO side and the RH ticker side. So the entry point is good at lower levels because you're locking in a UFO share rate that's decent for a low dollar amount. In the future, if only UFO goes up or if UFO and hex goes up, for you to lock in that same UFO share rate, so getting the same percentage of the rewards, it's going to cost you more money if the
Right.
whole entire ecosystem, because it's your share rate is just a number in a pool with everyone else's share rates. And let's say it's me, you, and Billy. You got $1 million, I got $1 million, and Billy's got $1 million. We all are getting 33% or 33.333% of the rewards. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the cheaper you can get the UFO share rates is the better. And now you've got your percentage of the pool, and now you can earn as long as you want. And the cool thing about it is, in a normal LP situation, your UFO could go up or down, they could vary, but your UFO shares don't change. So if UFO actually goes up a huge amount of X's, you actually didn't dilute your UFO share rate. You're locked into that UFO share rate from when you created the pool. If it does go in the opposite direction that actually hurts you, you can close that LP pool and reopen it at a better UFO share rate, because if it goes in the other direction, you'll end up with more UFO. And let's say it increased you ended up with 10% more UFO. You can close that and reopen it automatically, feeless. There's no fee to do this. And you can lock your position into a better UFO rate. So it actually can be a positive thing, even if the UFO chart goes down. You can use that time to lock yourself into a better UFO rate with it not costing you any more additional money, which I don't even know of another protocol that kind of offers any situation like that.
Okay. And I have a wallet on the screen, and it shows you the UFO shares. And I honestly, TGCen, I had never really noticed. I had seen it, but until you talked about it just now, it hadn't hit home what the shares are right here. There they are. And you actually literally lock those shares in. All right, guys.
Yeah, and then in the future, I think that those shares will incentivize people to stay in the pool, because once you close those shares down, even if you come back later, it's going to be really hard to get those shares again.
It's be more expensive.
Well, like, let's say if UFO goes on a 10x run and it naturally exits you out of the UFO position. Well, you still have your locked in UFO shares from when you created it.
Yeah.
So if you decide to close that position, you're like, you know what, I'll make a new one later. You actually won't ever have that chance to get those share rates for that cheap ever again. So it actually incentivizes the users to think about, do I really want to close this LP pool, because I'll never be able to get this share rate again. So I'm giving up this share rate. It's not like I can come back and, well, you could get it back if the price of UFO went back down. So I guess if you're a really good trader, you might be able to pull something off like that. I'm not really a trader. I'm more of a invest in projects and protocols I like, and I feel like are long-term goals for me. I'm not into trading things. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
So I try to build things that aren't really for traders necessarily. I'm sure people can trade them, but it's more for the long-term investor that wants their money to work for them.
Okay. Man, I am not going to unlock my LP. I'm not undoing it. It's going to be there for a long time.
Yeah, one of my buddies is seeing how long it takes. He put up some of his RH tickers, and he's trying to see how long it takes for him to actually get back all the value he put in, and then just have all those UFO shares for free.
Yeah, there you go. And there's a number of things. Go ahead.
He looked at it like, it might take a year, but then I got all my RH tickers back, and now I have these RH PLS printer on top of that.
Yeah, that's one of the strategies. You can take your PLS rewards and buy back the tokens that you LP'd with your UFO. Or you can take your PLS rewards, do whatever you want with them, or you can pair them with UFO in the PLS pool. It's a number of things you can do with it. It's really cool. Well, Rolando is clearly a fan of this ecosystem. He says, great stream. I love this project. It's bleeding edge technology. I'll be here for years to come. Yeah, me too, Rolando. Thanks for showing up. 113 people. I've been watching the number increase the whole time we've been streaming TGXen, and this is great. Do you have any final comments before I make my final comments?
No, that's about it. I think at the end of the day, I've put a lot of my time and a lot of my heart into building some protocols that I believe are the first of the kind on a blockchain that has a lot of room to run. And, obviously there's a little bit of risk in building, these protocols on a blockchain that have minimal users at the moment, but there's a lot of risk, but then there's a lot of reward. And with no risk, there's no reward. And I actually believe this ecosystem will be really rewarding to the pTGC and UFO ecosystem itself. And, I ultimately am betting the farm on RH, and it's not only on RH. He delivered the most decentralized blockchain currently on the market. And for UFO and pTGC that strive on decentralization, this was the place for us to be.
Very good. Well, guys, thank you everybody for showing up. And I do want to encourage you guys. Okay. I want to encourage you, if you are thinking, let me ask you this. Ask you, TGXen, this. Could we use more YouTubers in this space? More people that are creating content, would you say?
I would love if there was more content creators, not only for the Pulse Chain ecosystem, but also for the pTGC and UFO ecosystem as well. The more content creators the Pulse Chain ecosystem has, or it doesn't even need to only be Pulse Chain. It could be just DeFi, just cutting edge ideas. And if we could get more people producing content on YouTube, I think it will open up a lot of people's eyes to what we stand behind as far as pTGC and UFO, especially when the general market starts coming back into crypto. A lot of people haven't really put this together yet, but none of the general market is back into crypto. The only reason we're actually hitting all-time highs or close to all-time highs with, let's say, Bitcoin and Ethereum is because the banks are buying it. These big companies are buying it. It's not everyday users buying it yet. The everyday users are buying after the all-time highs.
That's right.
And the first place those people fall onto, at one point I came into crypto in a bull market. The first place I landed and learned everything was on YouTube. I was on YouTube for a whole year before, I forget what got me onto Twitter. I didn't even know there was a whole crypto Twitter world. I didn't even have a Twitter. But someone was like, "Oh, follow me on Twitter." And I was like, he's like, "I talked about this a little bit earlier." And I was like, "Okay, let me land here." And then I was like, "Oh my God, what is this whole hexagon world of all these, thousands and thousands of people just on here?" But I was just on YouTube watching the normal hexagon YouTubers for a whole entire year, just whatever content they're pushing out. And I strongly believe the general public, that's the first place they land. And
Absolutely.
the pTGC and UFO community can make a presence there. I think it would be very, very big for pTGC and UFO and Pulse Chain in general too, because I strongly believe that tech that's behind pTGC and UFO, if it's properly put out there and we're educating people properly, I think these protocols can actually help onboard people to Pulse Chain, because there's not anything like these protocols on any other blockchain out there with the potential of being on Pulse Chain as well.
There you go, guys. You heard it from TGXen, and now you can hear it from me. If you have any inkling that you're inclined to start a channel and record videos, record content, it can be as simple as a 5-minute video about how to get over onto Pulse Chain, or how to set up an MEV blocker for your wallet, or any number of things.
Yeah. Also, and I'm going to ask you and you don't have to answer this actually, but I'm going to try to start going on stream with Coach, who obviously is one of our biggest content creators on YouTube. I'm going to try to start going on like once a week with him, and I'm trying to get it to where maybe a couple other or more than a couple other content creators would like to go on at the same time and do like a space station kind of theme, just where a lot of the pTGC community is just talking amongst each other about pTGC and UFO instead of just two people. So that might even be a great spot if anyone is interested into maybe starting to produce content. Personally, I think it would be a lot easier to start with a bunch of other people in the room with you, talking with you, instead of having to just go on the screen or the stream by yourself, talking to a wall. Like, I'm sure you know, Banana, it's probably, I don't do it, but I imagine it being very difficult to sit there and keep talking and talking and talking when you're not having open conversation with someone.
It's different, but you do get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, you don't have to be good. You don't even have to know what you're doing. You just got to start. And
I think the pTGC and UFO community is pretty supportive as well. If anyone in our community ever stepped up and started making just basic content, I think automatically you would have a few people willing to show some support.
yeah. And also Twitter. There's always Twitter. I mean, we're trying to reach the world for pTGC and UFO, and we can do it through YouTube, Twitter. Posting once a day on Twitter, which I have a busy summer coming up, but interacting on that social media platform, garnering a following. What am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is, if you start today, like I started my channel over a year ago, and I haven't even reached 1,000 subs yet. I care, but I almost don't care. But if you start today and you produce content periodically, or on Twitter, you're on there daily or once a week producing content, interacting, before you know it, you'll have 500 followers on Twitter and 100 subs on YouTube. Well, if you started a YouTube channel, if anybody started a YouTube channel in this space, you're going to have like probably 500 subs right off the bat. So, but I think that's a wrap, guys. And 114 people in here. Thank you for showing up. Hit the like button on your way out, and we will do this again in a month. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and thank you, TGXen, for taking time out of your day to join us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. See you guys.